The German advance runs into the first Russian lines of defense around Kalatch, and a bitter battle rages as the Russians desperately resist the armored and infantry assaults of the 6th German Army, Hitler's chosen force. After heavy and savage fighting between the Don and Volga rivers, the Germans take Kalatch and cut the railway line running between Moscow and Stalingrad. In a final push, the 16th Panzer Division breaks through to the north of Stalingrad and reaches the western bank of the Volga on a 5-mile front. Churchill rushes to Moscow to give Stalin his assurance of support. He's accompanied by President Roosevelt's representative, Averell Harriman. Will the Russians be able to hold? The Americans and British ask themselves. When will they open their second front? Foreign Minister Molotov asks himself. Churchill, who also had to fight alone in 1940, understands better than most the agony of the Russian situation. Unfortunately, all that he can bring with him at the moment are words. Fortunately, he understands the use of words.
Whatever our suffering, whatever our toils, we will continue hand in hand like comrades and brothers until every vestige of the Nazi regime has been beaten into the ground.
The Russians had hoped for more. When they see him on the newsreels giving the V for victory sign, they believe that the two fingers indicate a second front. The Americans and the British promise to send large shipments of material, planes, trucks and jeeps. But Stalin knows now that at Stalingrad, the Russian army will be all alone to carry the full weight of the German war machine. The Germans have now reached the suburbs of Stalingrad. Hitler has ordered that the city must be taken before the 25th of August. The troops will have to hurry up. At first it all seems straightforward, but soon things will begin to go wrong. The day of the Blitzkrieg is over. Stalingrad is practically encircled, but Stalingrad fights on. Hitler decides that Stalingrad must be destroyed. On the 23rd of August 1942, 600 bombers of the 4th Air Fleet, commanded by General von Richthofen, are ordered to wipe out the city. Flying in relays, the Heinkels and Junkers return to reload at their airfields and manage to carry out 2,000 sorties over Stalingrad. thousands of tons of bombs fall all over the city. They leave 30 miles of ruins and 40,000 victims. The civilians who survived the bombing are evacuated, while General Yeremenko orders the 62nd and 64th Soviet armies to transform the city into a fortress. Stalingrad, pride of the Soviet Union, lies in ruin, but each ruin will now become a barricade. In some parts of the city, the chimneys are all that are left of the wooden houses that were destroyed by fire during the bombings. At the beginning of September, General Paulus hurls the German 6th Army into the final attack on the city. German General Staff believes that Stalingrad, which has been pulverized by bombing, will fall as easily as a ripe fruit. The expected victory harvest is delayed, however. On the 12th of September, General Chuikov is appointed to command the 62nd Army. He is 42 years old and promises to save Stalingrad or die with his men. His first priority is to bring reinforcements into the city from across the river. Under German artillery fire, the Russian naval units of the Volga manage to keep a lifeline open and are sometimes able to land men and material to reinforce the depleted garrison troops. Just when the battered 62nd Army is on the point of collapse, the naval forces manage to bring in an elite guards division commanded by General Rodintsev. It's the 14th of September. 1 week later, the Rodintsev division is still fighting in the center of the city and entrenched around the railway station, but its strength is down to 80 men. Only the tremendous Russian artillery barrage, firing support from the east bank of the Volga, manages to hold the Germans back. One after another, the best Russian regiments are being consumed, and it's a matter of concern as to how long the 62nd Russian army can last. The highest point in the city is the Mamayev Hill. 300 feet high, it looks out over the valley of the Volga and dominates the city. General Chuikov has set up his command post here. The Mamayev Hill is the scene of some of the heaviest fighting of a 2-month battle and changes hands several times. At the end of September, the Germans hold the hill, and from there can overlook the entire city, the industrial zone, the center, and the railway station. They now know that they will have to take Stalingrad street by street. In the event, it takes 2 divisions and 5 days of fighting with cold steel to capture the railway station, which had been defended by the last survivors of a Guards unit and the parachute troops of Colonel Yagi. It's October before General Paulus can attack the industrial quarter with 5 divisions, 2 of them armored. In the wreckage of the tractor factory, the Russian workers turn out tanks until the very last moment. When the German advance is nearly upon them, They put on military uniforms and go out to meet the enemy in tanks, which they had only just completed. General Paulus throws all his reserves into the battle, 7 divisions. The German Panzer Grenadiers advance yard by yard through the residential zones, the Red October factory, the barricade factories. Constantly, the Russian troops counterattack. The crack guard units, the Siberian soldiers of General WW2. In 2 weeks, 3 Russian divisions lose 75% of their strength. The German Stuka dive bombers put in a final blow. On the banks of the Volga, the last gasoline stores of the Russian army are destroyed, and a sea of fire sweeps over the shelter of General Chuikov, who continues to issue orders from his command post. At the end of October, the Germans occupy the last factories. The dead Russian soldiers and workmen had kept their promise. They had not retreated. General Paulus tells Hitler that the Sixth Army holds Stalingrad, or at least 90% of it. They raise the German flag in the center of the town. They have reached the west bank of the Volga. Hitler is exultant. He strikes a medal to commemorate the victory. Throughout Europe, he posts notices of the latest German triumph. On the 9th of November in Munich, he makes a long speech announcing the good news.
Vor allem aber, Sie kämpfen immer am gleichen Platz. Hier und da sagen Sie dann bescheiden, nach 14 Tagen, wir haben eine Stadt evakuiert. Aber im Allgemeinen kämpfen Sie seit dem 22. Juni am gleichen Platz, immer erfolgreich. Immer werden wir zurückgeschlagen und sind bei diesem fortgesetzten Zurückschlagen jetzt langsam bis zum Kaukasus gekommen.
The speech is received more appreciatively by the Nazi officials than the soldiers who are listening far away in Stalingrad.
Nun sagen die anderen, warum kämpfen Sie da nicht? Weil ich kein